Welcome back everybody to my channel. I hope you're looking forward to the weekly Forex outlook and reviews as much as I am. Remember, we're trying to keep this under 10 minutes or 10 minutes max so that everybody can continue to go and enjoy their day. Last week we done 10 analysis. 9 out of the 10 were absolutely beautiful, but one of them wasn't. But it happens, guys. Now listen, I just want to make this a disclaimer. Any analysis that I'm giving you now is of my own opinion. These are not signals, and this does not mean that you should put your life savings on any of the analysis that I'm about to give you. It's just my opinion. So use your own judgment, use your own strategies, use your own risk management plans, whatever it is, to make sure that you are trading safely. So the first pair that we're going to take a look at is the dollar index. So the first thing that I'm going to look at is identify two things here. We have an uptrend. Uptrend was broken. We then switched to a downtrend. Now, if you look at the range of this uptrend on the 4H time frame and the range now back to the downside, it looks overextended. We can't call a reversal just yet on this market because the truth of the matter is this market is pushing to the downside, making lower lows and lower highs. So for key levels on this market, what I'm going to be looking for next week is the lower high of this structure, which technically means that if the market is pushing to the downside, we should see a continuation to the downside, and this structure area should not be broken. So if a continuation sells, I'm going to be looking to see how the market comes back to react in and around this area to see if we're going to have a continuation to the downside. Any price action that starts to violate this structure to the upside, I'm going to start to anticipate that reverse on this market, and then I'm going to be looking for some sort of retest and continuations back to the upside. These are the two scenarios that I'm going to be looking out for next week on the dollar index. The overextended trend on the 4H time frame could mean that possibly we're going to start reversing on this market structure. The scenario that I'll be planning for is a break close above structure, allow for price to leave this area for a period of time, then come back for a retest continuation. The next pair that we'll take a look at is EURUSD. With this structure on the market, it is clearly to the upside. We can see that there's no other bias other than bullish. What I'm going to be looking for at this stage is to see how price exhausts this push phase. We are starting to identify an area in the market where price is creating a wick rejection. So this is going to be a level in the market where I'm going to be looking to manage my trades. So the structure that I'll be looking for is to see how price exhausts back into this previous structure, or potentially some of these higher low areas around here. And then I'll be looking for that continuation to the upside. This is the scenario that I will be planning for next week. And of course, if the market decides that once it's had this exhaustion and we tried to continue with this bullish structure, if we fail to break above this level here for whatever reason, then I will slowly wait for the reversal to come to fruition, and then I'll make a second bias. The next pair that we'll take a look at is pound USD. I can clearly see that the structure of this market is to the upside. We do have higher highs, higher lows being created on this structure. Now notice here, we did have an area in the market where price reacted to for at least 12 hours. It was unable to break above the structural high, and then we can see a lower high forming on this market. Now it doesn't mean that we've entered this reversal, but what I have to be mindful of now is if I'm planning to buy this structure, we may come to an area where price may react to, and then we may have a continuation to the downside. We've seen this pattern form a lot where we see a price create a level, then come back to collect orders, where more sellers enter the market, and then we can see this rally to the downside. So for now, I'm going to be looking for some key areas in the market to make sure that as long as price stays above, we can continue to look for buys. But once we start to violate structure, then we're going to have to start looking for a different bias. No, I'm not going to take a structural low because it makes no sense. I know that the market is going to exhaust this push phase because on the lower time frames, this is a downtrend, so it will have to exhaust. So what I'm going to be looking for is just for price to see how we start reacting in and around 50% of this leg. If price comes and starts to show signs of a reaction here and failing to push up, then we could possibly look for the lower high continuation to the downside. So for now, at the moment, I know the structure is bullish, but I can't buy into this at the moment unless obviously the market starts to create a level, and I'm not sure where that level is going to be created from yet, and I don't want to make it up either. I know this is like a major structural level low here. So obviously if we get a bounce off that, we can look for buys. But at the stage of price coming back to this level, it's going to be too bearish, and I'm not going to sell into a bearish structure. So for now, I'm happy to take short-term sells for, let's say, 30 to 50 pips on this market. And these are the two scenarios I personally will be looking out for on pound USD. The next pair that we'll take a look at is UJ. Now the structure of this market is really not that clear. We were waiting for price to break out this consolidation last week and look for those retests, which we had. So we know that in and around this level here, it is a key level. We had the retest of the structure and now we see price reacting here again. What I want to see from this market structure is to see if we have a continuation to the downside. I would like to see price come back to this level to show some sort of reaction and then see this price fall to the downside. But if we mark this up, take a look at this, guys, we are sitting in a range. Technically, it is a bigger range than the previous. So what we need to see now is what the market's going to do when it comes to these two levels. Are we going to be able to break above this structure to now start creating an uptrend in the market? Or are we going to be waiting for price to break the structure to see if we start to create a downtrend in this market? So for now, I'm only going to be selling in this range because I feel there's more bearish pressure than there is bullish. But of course, I would say to you guys, wait patiently for the breakouts if you're not that experienced, and then look for those retests of these structures. The next pair that we'll take a look at is gold. Now for my bias on gold, we are still down. Remember around this area, we said that we'll be looking for price to continue its sell bias. We're making structural lower highs, lower lows. We have a key level here in the market where price has reacted to a beautiful breakout, break back into structure, and now we've just violated this previous structure. For me, this is sell bias, and what I'm going to be looking for next week is to see how price comes back into a key level in the market where it's reacted to before, and the first signs of that key level is starting to build up here. Now, what I'm going to be saying to myself is this is a minor key level. I know this is the major, so I will allow for price to come back to this level for continuation sales. But if we start to create some sort of lower high formation here, then I'll be very happy to wait for that momentum shift, and I'll be looking for the structure to come back just to collect some orders as a double top and then see this rally to the downside. If the market continues to rally to the downside without sitting in this area for too long, the market opens, we gap down, and then we continue to go down, then I will still use this same key area here to wait for price to come back to for some sort of retest, because it is an area where price is reacting to. We can see the wick rejections, and that's where I want to take my trade at these levels. So my bias on gold right now is down. The two scenarios, the more aggressive is this, to allow price to leave, come back for a double top, or to allow the market to breathe at open and then look for the continuation back to the downside. The next pair that we'll take a look at is pound JPY. Now we can see a lot of news inflicted candles here, which is not the prettiest of structures, but what we can see, even after this bullish pressure to the upside, we've had this strong rally to the downside. So what I'm going to be looking for is a 50% retracement of this actual push phase here for price to come back to create this structure. What I'll be anticipating is the market creating a downtrend in this fashion, and obviously I'm going to be waiting for candle closes, wick rejections, strong candles to the downside to indicate that we're going to continue with this sell buy structure. Now this is the minor again. This is the major high, so price is allowed to come back to these levels to retest before it goes down. But for now, the scenario I'll be looking out for, which is going to be, for me, the safest scenario, because by the time price comes back to here, if it goes bullish, it's going to be too bullish. So I just want to see a slight pullback to an area where price is reacted to before, and then see this continuation to the downside. The next pair that we'll take a look at is USDCAD. Now, with this structure of the market, it has changed. We can clearly see that we had a very strong trend to the downside, and we've now broken that. Our key levels here on the market, which is going to be your major, is this structural level low here. But what I identify in this market is we're now starting to break above previous structure highs. So again, the same scenario that we just looked at on pound JPY, I'm going to be looking for price to come back to about 50% of this range here. So something like this, to then see how price reacts, creating a higher low formation to then see if we have this continuation to the upside. For the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to be bullish bias on USDCAD, because that's what the market's illustrating to me. But what I have to wait to see is how the market will continue to create structure for me to identify tradable opportunities. The next pair that we'll take a look at is EURJPY. Now, with the structure of this market, we can clearly see that it is strong to the upside. The difference here is we didn't have that continued rally to the downside as we just saw on our previous pair with USDCAD. So what I'm going to be looking for is to see how price starts to react into this level that it's created. I know that the market actually right now is sitting in a range, so I have to be very careful. But for this reason, because of this bullish pressure and this lack in bearish momentum, I'm going to be waiting for price to break out of this structure pressure, retest for a continuation up. For sells, I'm just going to wait for the market to develop, to leave, break structures, come back for double tops, double bottoms. But for now, I'm more bull biased than I am bearish on this pair, and we'll see what happens again over the next 24 to 48 hours. The next pair that we'll take a look at is USD Swiss franc. We can clearly see that the market has recently broken a range. We can see that price tried to come back into this range, and obviously it failed. The market then plummeted to the downside with strong bearish pressure, and for that reason, I'm fairly confident that we're going to be looking for sells going into next week on this market structure. And for that reason, I'm going to be waiting for price to pull back to this level for a nice double top or a lower high formation in and around 50% of this range for continuation sells. The last pair that we'll take a look at is pound Swiss franc. This is almost identical to dollar Swiss franc. I can see that the trend line's been broken. We have a beautiful double top on this structure. We have a very strong push phase in this market. Again, I'm going to be looking for a 50% retracement of this full push phase, and I'm going to be looking for a pullback, lower high, and then a continuation to the downside. So that's the 10 pairs this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this just gives you a little insight into what the markets could be doing. It's not 100% concrete. Compare it to your analysis. Use a bit of confluence to work out what some of the other pairs will be doing. And as I always say, if you've enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and until next time, take care.